And here we see the Failing Writers team make their way across the showground in all their finery. Jonathan there, on his trusty steed Shithead, daintily drawing closer to us. John looking resplendent in his sumo wrestling ballerina costume. Closely followed by Dave, this year dressed as a traditional ringmaster, followed by a beautiful parade of lions, tigers, and of course, slightly erratic ferrets. Last but not, maybe actually least, Thomas has wandered in, eating, well, pretty much wearing a doner kebab and chips, opting for the chili and garlic sauce, Tom being very much a traditionalist in that sense. And so, thank God, ends the Failing Writers Parade to celebrate the start of the show.
Hello, everybody.
What did you say? Happy writers. Hello, happy writers.
Yeah, hello, happy writers.
Happy writers.
Do you know what I was thinking the other day? We need
Better introductions.
Yes. We need a name for our listeners. All the other
okay.
podcasts have got a special name for their listeners.
What were Terry Wogan's, Terry's Todgers or whatever he
I
called
bet
them?
he didn't.
So,
I bet he didn't.
They had
call them
togs,
that.
didn't they?
Togs. That's
Togs.
it, yeah. We
Not
need...
Todgers.
I don't know.
Let's not call ours Todgers.
So we need something for people who... a collective name for
Yes,
people who listen to
there
the
you
Failing
go.
Writers podcast. God, I don't know if you can
Failing
use most of those words anymore.
Friters.
Freighters.
Fn-
Freight. Why?
Fate. Faters. Fate.
Yeah, I don't know.
We should need to think about that.
Yeah.
All right. Suggestions next week, lads.
Yeah.
That's your
Okay.
homework.
God, this hasn't started well, has it? We've set ourselves one task, failed it, and moved straight on. That doesn't bode well for the rest of the episode.
Hey, we've given ourselves a deadline.
That's true.
That's important.
Talking of deadlines, we've got one coming up. I think we should move straight on to business here. Our self-imposed deadline for the pitch that this series was all supposed to be about, let's not forget, 20 whatever episodes ago, is looming large. So
should we just not bother doing it? Is that what you're thinking?
No, that's not what. No, Tom, let's not be defeatist. We're going to get through this by Jiminy.
I just don't know if it's worth it anymore.
None of it's been worth it, Tom, but we're here now, aren't we?
It's just, do you know what I mean? It's like flogging a dead horse.
Well, whilst we're here, we ought to try to get some...
Tom's not feeling very positive about it today.
It is.
Maybe we should discuss this another
It's
time.
a millstone around our necks.
It's not, is it?
I've been doing quite a lot of work on it in the last day or so.
I know,
as well,
so have
actually.
I.
But maybe that's not a good sign then, is it?
Maybe that's why you've had enough.
Do you know what?
Now I've got to work on it. I'm not really that bothered. No, what we need to do is we need to speak to proper industry professionals to get the insight that we need to complete the task properly.
That's gone down well when we've done that previously.
Exactly, yeah.
We always come out the back of the end of the episode
with
really,
sore backs because we've been patted on them so much.
Yeah,
don't we?
exactly.
Oh, goodness me.
Fired up, ready to go.
Nothing but encouragement.
Well, no, we were just talking off air though, weren't we? And saying the whole point of this season has been that we're doing it in steps, kind of live, and things are going wrong. It's not like we just go behind the scenes and come up with this fait accompli finish.
If it was that easy, Tom, everyone would be doing it, wouldn't
they? Exactly. But it is about taking the hits on the way, isn't it? And kind of getting setbacks and stuff, which is great fun. Great fun.
So Tommy, you said you've been writing a bit. What have you been writing?
Well, I don't want to get into a domestic argument on air now, but I wrote, after we had a meeting about it last week, I wrote the revamped outline of episode 1, which I don't know if either of you actually even bothered reading. So I don't know why I bothered.
I think I read something. I don't know which version. There have been so many versions of episode 1. I thought the idea was, after our meeting last week, was that I'd do that and then you two would get stuck into it and start adding bits and taking bits out, and then I'd jump in, and it just felt like I'd done it, and then it's like, all right, yeah, that's done.
That's done.
Well,
I have to look at that now.
We need to get a bit of get up and go going,
bit
boys.
of gumption. Where is it? Is
Spending
it in the
20 minutes on it,
in
just doing a little bit, sending it back. We need to get some momentum on it. Momentum, that's what we need.
Right, momentum. All right, is it in the thing?
Of course,
Is
it's
it
in the bloody
Google
thing, Dave. That was the plan, Dave.
It's
It's
in
in
the
the
drive,
thing.
We need to have a better naming system because they all look like the same thing. All the things in the thing look like the same bloody thing.
Yeah, they're all
Exactly.
titled Poker
Into the
Night.
thing with the other things.
You need to
we need to get a bit more.
put a
movement
sign on it
don't we?
saying "this one, Dave," and then I'll read it then.
No, that was good, Tommy. I read that. I
Of course
enjoyed
you
it.
did.
Yeah, I
think
read that.
we,
It was
Oh,
brilliant.
don't you start.
Hey, I've been writing because I just needed to kind of clear it up in my head. I've been writing the all is lost moment of Poker Night, episode 5, how it all goes down.
Oh,
I
brilliant.
don't know why, but I really needed to. I sort of needed to hear where it ends up, if you know what I
Well,
mean.
that's good because I started writing the outlines for the other episodes and really
Brilliant.
got fed up by sort of episode 4. If you look at the document eventually, which you might do, it's hilarious because, like, obviously episode 1 is like 3 pages long, whatever, 2,000 words.
Yeah.
Episode 2
It gets shorter.
episode 2 is about 2 pages. Episode 3 is quite a lot less. Episode 4 is just really a paragraph, and episode 5 is just cut and paste from what you sent before, John. It really is like a downward slope of. Oh, I'm getting a bit less bothered each time.
We
here.
could do something that
God.
no one has
Yeah.
ever done before
Yeah.
in a sitcom and just have the episodes get shorter and
Just
shorter.
have shorter and shorter
So
episodes.
the last
That's a
couple of
great
episodes
idea.
are just like 5 minutes long. No one's thought of doing that.
That's
Yeah.
brilliant. That's unique.
That is genius.
That's unique. So
You
it starts off. Episode 1 is like a feature film. It's like an hour and a half.
Yeah, and by the last episode,
It's just like
the ad
it's just like a
break,
TikTok.
The adverts are longer.
It's just the last episode is just a TikTok.
Well, talk about momentum.
I tell you
mean,
what,
We've done
that
so
is-
much. See what happens when we put our heads together, boys.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
you
is
see.
revolutionary. Why would no one ever have thought of that before?
Yeah, we should. It does kind of reinforce the fact that we should keep touching base with industry professionals that actually know what they're on about, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. we
So
probably
I
should.
refer you to my earlier point.
Yeah.
Let's do exactly that and speak to an industry professional to get some proper
Yes.
insight.
What, like right now?
Yes.
Right now, if we
What?
know anyone who's hanging about.
Right, here we are, and we are massively overexcited, I think, to have Saskia Schuster join us on the podcast. Who is Saskia Schuster? Well, she just so happens to be an executive producer who has worked on shows such as The Armstrong and Miller Show, Harry Hill's Alien Fun Capsule, The Kumars, comedy drama The Trouble with Maggie Cole with Dawn French, and was also recently commissioning editor on studio sitcom Kate and Koji. Hello, Saskia.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you very much for joining us. So, out of all the shows you've worked on,
No.
what was your favourite? Are you allowed to tell
You're
us?
either going to go which is your favourite or which is the worst. I never say because it's kind of, I feel it's a bit disrespectful to all the other shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost
They're all
unprofessional.
different, aren't they? It's like asking what your favourite child is. They're all.
They're all beautiful.
I mean, obviously, mine's my older son is my favourite out of the two. But it's like asking that, isn't it? Well, they've all got their own different
Yeah.
qualities.
Yeah, and the whole working experience around them, it isn't just about what you see on the screen. It's like often good 2 years build up to that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So, I don't. I know. I'm sorry. Get off to a start
That's
where I
all right.
don't even
You-
answer the question.
Yeah, no,
That's
it was a
fine.
massively unprofessional question, but sometimes
Really
you catch
was.
people
I mean,
off
it was.
guard early on,
Yeah.
and they end up divulging more information than they meant to.
It's like a little warning, isn't it? John may also ask a really awkward question at the end.
like a bookmark.
Always
Yeah.
save one up.
But I suppose the point of all
Yeah.
this, isn't it, is that this whole series that we've been doing has been building up to us putting together a pitch. And before we do that, we wanted to get a bit of insider information on the industry and what sort of producers and executives are looking for when it comes to a pitch. So we just wondered if there's anything that you could tell us,
Oh,
Saskia.
right. Okay. Why don't you be a bit more specific in in your question?
Well, that's a good shout. I was wondering, I think it might be good to start with, what exactly does an executive producer do? Because I imagine the three of us have probably got our own sort of loose concept of what that is. But yeah, you tell us in your words, what do you do?
I would imagine lunches, isn't it, mostly?
God, if only. So it depends. So I've been an exec producer, or you might describe it as a commissioner for ITV and Sky. And then I've been an exec producer for independent production companies as well. And my current role is working for an indie. So it's similar but different. So obviously, if you're commissioning, you are a buyer, and if you're working for an indie, you are a seller. So that's where the difference lies. But ultimately, you are, as an EP, I guess, once you're in production, you are that slightly distant, fresh set of eyes on things, I would say. But also, you have the overview position. And it kind of is a job that appeals to control freaks, because you get a say in every element of it. So I started off as a script editor and sort of working in development, and which I absolutely love, because I'm totally sort of overexcited about writing and scripts, and that's my starting point, I guess. But I always found it really hard when a script got to a certain point to kind of then hand it over, and it goes off to everyone working on the production, and you kind of don't see it again. So to kind of move it into production, and then to move into a step up above that, the EP level, where you're kind of having a hand in on the heads of department and sort of talking, certainly from a commissioning point of view, you talk about marketing, the press campaign, everything around it is just really enjoyable, I think.
So is there a point at which you kind of step away from it once you've kind of got it off the ground and then move on to another thing, or are you kind of dipping in and out all the time? You've always got your grubby little hands on it.
You are dipping in and out, but hopefully you've assembled a really good team who are kind of doing the everyday grind, and they're the ones getting up really early and they're staying really late. And you might do an occasional sort of, well, this is as a commissioner, you might occasionally do a set visit where everyone's sort of very, very nice to you, but you're essentially just kind of hanging around and being really unuseful and getting in everyone's way. So from a kind of commissioning point of view, I would say it does pause slightly once filming's going on. You're watching rushes and feeding back and watching assemblies. And if you've got a good relationship with the production team, you'll be talking to them quite regularly. But really, it's best to be hands off, and you employ experts to be experts. Yeah. But if you are sort of on the production side of it as an EP, it would be a bit worrying if you were stepping away, I think.
Yeah. So you're always keeping an eye out. So what have you done most of? Have you mostly been like the seller or the buyer, if you know what I mean? You've been...
Probably slightly more on the selling side. So I was a commissioner for 9 years, and I think I've been working in TV for about, this ages me, I think about 25 years now. But off and on, because obviously, as a mother, that's been sort of interspersed with working part-time and maternity leaves and things like that.
And so as when you're selling the ideas, obviously you're involved in the actual pitching, presumably, to commissioners. What does that normally look like? How does that go down?
So a UK pitch is quite different to a US pitch. And I've learned this quite recently, because working for the company I work for now, we do quite a lot of international pitching, which was new to me, especially having sort of just spent 9 years in commissioning, where it was very UK focused. So it was a real culture shock. So from a UK point of view, I suppose I know a lot of the commissioners just because I've been around forever. And also, having been a commissioner, you end up on a lot of panels and you get to know, contrary to what most people love to think, there's quite a lot of goodwill between commissioners because you all know what each other's going through. So a lot of goodwill and support. So I do know quite a few of them, which does help. I mean, it doesn't give you an advantage in terms of getting your show away, but it just helps in terms of the ease of the conversation when you're in the room. What I tend to do, okay, so I'll backtrack a bit. When I was at ITV, people would always contact me and say, can we come in for a meeting? We want to pitch this idea. We were a really tiny team, so I was probably quite annoying. And I would say, okay, send me what the project is, send me all the materials. I'll take a look, and if it is something that I feel could be a fit for ITV, then let's have the meeting. Because often you get 5-10 minutes into the pitch and you just know, and then you think, oh no, now I've got to make it worth their while for having to come in, and
that sounds sensible.
So I tended to do it that way, and that's sort of, I guess, the way I tend to pitch in the UK is I will send an email with a lot of information, send a treatment, send a script if there is one, and then ask for a meeting, ask to come in and chat about it. And at which point I do like to try and bring the writer in as well. And that's something that, again, flipping to the commissioner point of view, a lot of producers didn't bring writers in, and I would always want them to, because it's like, why not hear from the writer if you can? I don't want to hear from the person who's representing the writer, because in the course of the discussion, you might suddenly get a lot more insight into the tone and the comedy and their thoughts about the characters than is just in a rather dry treatment or one script. So I think it's really rewarding to try and get the writer in front of the buyer.
And what goes into that treatment? Is that the standard thing, or has that changed over time? Is that always like the outline of the series and then a more in-depth outline of one of the episodes, or how does it work?
There's no kind of standard template. I think everyone tends to do them differently, which is why I think there's quite a lot of confusion around what should a deck or a treatment look like. I think it depends if there's a script or not. So if there isn't a script, the treatment's probably going to be a bit more fleshed out. I tend to, they're weird documents because they are essentially a selling document. And in some ways that means it's not that representative of a script in terms of you're describing a script. Whereas, it's much better to just read a script, isn't it? But obviously, if you as a producer for an indie, it costs a lot of money to pay for a script. So I always try to make sure there are sample scenes if possible. A lot of writers don't like doing sample scenes, so maybe then it would be sort of little exchanges of dialogue that just gets the actual writing on the page, or gives the characters a little bit of a voice.
Just brings it to life.
So I think anything that can really give the flavour of the comedy and isn't just describing it really helps. But you're absolutely right. It sort of needs to be setting up the premise. Who are the characters? What is maybe a sort of detailed episode 1, and then some paragraphs on subsequent episodes, and sort of the series arc if there is one. If it's something that has series 2 and beyond potential, to acknowledge where it could possibly go, but literally 5 lines on that. But I think people always used to say, oh, commissioners don't really read all that. Actually, they're really useful because when you're a commissioner, you are essentially always pitching up to the next level, the people who are going to make the really big decisions about how to allocate the overall channel spend. So you do need all that information to share. So even if you've had a great meeting and you've had writers describing it and talking about it sort of very eloquently and very funnily, and you come away and you're on a real high, it does come down to that sort of piece of paper to share with other people. And a lot of people don't like, that's why I think a lot of people don't like sending it in advance, because they feel like it's not ever going to do service to the concept as much as getting in the room and having the chat.
Interesting.
How often would you say that there is a script at that stage? It's interesting to say that sometimes there is and sometimes there isn't. Is it, generally speaking, would there be a script at that stage?
So on my site, I'd say probably about half, but that's been because people have sent me the script. It wouldn't be that I get sent a treatment and then I say, okay, we're going to pay for a script, because I don't have a development pot that is amply topped up. We might then go to a third party, like a distributor, or ask for some investment funding if it's something that we feel really needs a script to take to market. But it's it's a lot of money when you have limited resources, because a lot of development, I think, I was taught this really, really early in my career, and I don't know, things might have changed, but I was sort of always told that the proportion of development spend, you've got to, as a company, you've got to look at it as a little bit of a write-off, because the conversion of development into funded development into production is quite small. And having been on the other side of it and knowing how few slots there are, I would say that probably does still stand up. So so a lot of people do just write the script and send it in because they think that's the best way to showcase it. I remember years ago, I was working with Arthur Matthews, and he just hated writing treatments. And he said it took him much longer to write a treatment than to write a script. So he would always just write the script. And that's a much better way of selling it.
Definitely with the comedy side of things as well.
I can sort of understand that, to be fair. It's difficult. It's always, we've talked about this before. It's a real kind of chicken and egg thing. in order to write the treatment, you sort of have to know the characters, and then in order to know the characters, you kind of already have to have written it.
It is. And then, annoyingly, again, this is me being a real pain in the arse as a commissioner, but if I sort of then sort of invested in funded development or something, I would always ask for a sort of scene by scene outline, because it's so much easier to kind of give notes and unpick and change things at that stage rather than something is, already existing as a script.
Yeah.
How does if there's no script, how do you pick up on the comedy where there's no...
You see, I think that's exactly the problem with the treatment. And that's why I try to kind of get, force some of the dialogue and some of the scenes into a treatment.
Yeah, because that's...
Even if the scenes don't represent anything that's going to happen in an episode, but it's just two of the characters exchanging some kind of rubbish that's going to make you laugh, then...
Well, that's exactly what was going through my mind. You could have a treatment and a situation that is inherently funny, as you should have, but then you can easily mess that up, can't you? And crash all the jokes and end up not to be particularly funny.
Yeah, exactly.
But we spoke to, was it David Quantick we spoke to? He was saying that sort of some writers used to sort of make a living just by writing those sort of spec scripts, and they would never go anywhere, and they could make a sort of decent living by doing that.
But did they set out to be? No, I'm sure they didn't. I'm sure they always hoped and believed it would go somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he was just talking about the sort of the people who are happy to keep doing that, and those who would just want to,
Yeah, I think we've talked to both sorts, haven't we, over the time we've been doing this?
Yeah.
Of those that were quite happy to just keep churning stuff out, not really bothered to pay the money.
Yeah.
Versus others that have kind of almost given up a good thing because things weren't getting to screen, so to stop and try a completely different avenue, rather than just writing scripts that go into the void, which must be soul destroying.
Yeah, it must be. But the spec script is actually, it is a useful thing to have, because if I get sent a treatment by a writer that I just don't know, I will often ask if I can see an example of their writing, even if it doesn't sort of bear any resemblance to the idea or the tone of what they're pitching. But somehow you can sort of see if someone can craft something.
Yeah.
And it is useful to have that. And I think if you're a completely new writer and you don't have anything, I mean, what are people supposed to go on?
Is that the worst thing you could do in a pitch then? Or is the... What are the worst things that you've maybe seen?
Okay, the most heart-sink thing is when you are being pitched by a writer who's usually quite inexperienced and new, and they're full of enthusiasm about their idea, which is great, and you obviously want to see that. And then they say, and I've written 13 episodes of it. And you just think, oh no, because first of all, you kind of know that if you're turning it down, how much time and love has gone into this. But also, if you've written 13 episodes of it, it's quite a fixed product in that person's mind. So how are you easily going to be able to sort of go through a notes process and sort of ultimately when you're writing for television, you are writing for an industry. Okay, you've absolutely got to keep at the heart of your script why you want to write it, what it is that your intention is, what it is that you love about it. Of course, you've got to protect that, but you have to be able to sort of bend it a little bit to what the buyer's needs are and who the market is, and various things. And I kind of think if you've got something that is so fixed in someone's mind, especially someone who's not that experienced and not used to necessarily taking notes and responding to notes, that's a lot of unpicking. Say you say, okay, I think there are too many characters, let's lose one. Whoa.
That's going to affect a lot of episodes.
That's a big no.
Yeah.
A
lot of rewriting to do.
Presumably those more inexperienced writers come via an agent. So you'd get contacted by an agent or something, and they say, we've got a great script I think you'll really like. Is that kind of how it works?
So a lot, most comes in through agents. A lot through just people I know and have worked with, or contacts of contacts.
Someone you've been on a podcast with.
Exactly. Okay, I know I'm going to regret saying this, but so I think we do. Actually, I've not checked. I think we say no unsolicited scripts, and most production companies do, and everywhere I've ever worked has said that. I kind of think that if you are not reading scripts because they haven't come via an agent, I think you're foolish. I personally have got, I think, 3 scripts on my slate that are from writers that don't have an agent. I probably wouldn't take any more on because they are very time consuming, because they are, new writers. And you want to give them your time and your care. But equally, I think it was so hard to get an agent. And I don't think it's any reflection on you as a writer. It's just that a lot of agents will, openly say that their lists that are closed because they can't take on anymore. So it's a really, really difficult situation. And when I was thousands of years ago, when I was at Objective, I got sent a script by 2 writers who didn't have an agent, and it was a really great script. It had a lot of potential. It wasn't perfect by any means, but you could really see the promise in it. And it was by Neil and Rob Gibbons. And we did get it into funded development at Channel 4. It never sort of went into production, but it just made me realise that it doesn't happen very often, but there can be those little gems in the pile. And I think as it sort of seems to become, I don't know, it seems tougher than ever to get an agent, and I don't know why that is. I just think why wouldn't you read everything that comes your way? I mean, a lot of things you can see quite quickly. If it's, as a production company, you will have a strategy around what goes on your slate and what you're interested in developing, because you sort of need an identity as a company, and you can't say yes to everything. You have to slightly narrow your focus and be sort of quite disciplined about that. So I think, often you can tell quite quickly if something is for you or not. But I just don't understand. I understand in terms of trying to stop the volume of things coming in, because it can be overwhelming. But equally, why wouldn't you take a look?
Yeah, absolutely.
So those things might find their way onto your desk kind of via somebody you know? Or... No,
those 3 have just been totally random.
Right.
I don't know how I suppose they went on the website and thought, oh, try sending it to her.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Oh, we can totally understand why people would want to say, no unsolicited submissions, please, because you'd just be absolutely bombarded, I suppose, if you just had a complete open door policy.
Yeah, and you do get some loony scripts. And I mean loony scripts, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way to writers, but what some people think is a script is can be quite imaginative. I once got sent a supermarket receipt where someone had scribbled down some dialogue or a sort of snatched conversation they'd heard at the checkout till, and genuinely pitched that to me as a sitcom. I quite admired that.
Somebody caught your attention.
It did. I've remembered it. Can't remember the dialogue, but I remember the way it was pitched.
Yeah. Well, that's slimy. Could only have been worse if they tried to claim back the value of the receipt on expenses at the same time, wouldn't it?
They had to pay for a stamp as well. And that's not cheap these days.
No, I suppose not.
Still, they got 3 series, didn't they? So it turned out all right. Well, maybe we should do that then, boys. What could we write?
No, just to be clear, they didn't get anywhere. But I think actually that's a really good point, because I think if you are an unsolicited writer and you are sending to a production company, at least make sure you are, putting your script in a proper format and it looks like a professional script, and just to be taken seriously. Because again, you need something to come through, whether you're a broadcaster or whether you are an independent production company. Things need to come through the proper channels, because then there's an email trail, there's a kind of legal protection around things. And, people can often accuse people of stealing ideas, of, this came in and then you commissioned that, and, that was from my, all sorts of things. So you do need the proper channels might be boring, but they are there for a reason.
Yeah.
We were talking about that in another episode, weren't we? We were talking about how it seems to happen quite often that the same idea will kind of come around at the same time.
Yeah.
Because it's just sort of ripe, it's sort of in the air.
Yeah, the dots have been joined by, the same dots have been joined by 2 different people in 2 different places.
But it could happen, when I was at ITV, I'd often see really high numbers of scripts coming in across maybe 2 or 3 months about the same thing. And it almost felt like everyone had got together in the same pub and had a chat and then gone away and written their sitcom. But the most unusual one I got was, I think I got 7 or 8 scripts about netball. Never had a script about netball before, never had one since. But within about 2 months, suddenly it was netball
little
season.
Window. Wow.
The world was just ready
Yeah.
for a series about netball.
Yeah. Didn't commission any of them.
Have you ever had a really, I'm guessing pitches are usually kind of quite a sort of relaxed affair where you kind of just sit and chat.
Yeah.
But have you ever had anyone really kind of pitch hard to you?
Well, this is the difference between US and UK pitch.
Oh, okay.
UK pitches, people would come in and you'd have a nice chat, and you try and make it sort of feel quite relaxed, because part of it is about establishing a relationship, because if you are going to pick something up, then you're going to be working with that person for a long time. So you kind of want to start off on sort of a getting to know you basis. Can I work with this person? And just, you're not testing them. It isn't as sort of conscious of that, but you do want to sort of get some sort of familiarity going. And then you'll have a chat and, chit chat, bit of gossip. Usually that's always, highlight of a pitch meeting. And then eventually, not always, they'll get around to pitching. I mean, I've had a few pitch meetings where they've left and never pitched anything. And you kind of think, oh God, was it me? But often it is a case that you set out, what you're looking for in the strategy and the audience and blah, blah, blah. And they might decide that they didn't have anything that was right and decide not to waste your time. But yeah, then there'd be sort of, I would say a chatty, not a hard sell, but a sort of chatty discussion around an idea. So that's the UK model. The US,
and I bet you're going to say the US model is even more laid back, and it's not kind of confrontational or anything. Is that right?
Absolutely not. So I mean, I'm still getting used to it, in all honesty, and I kind of really admire it. But it's quite intimidating. So you have several practices for the pitch, and the writers will write out a really long, well, it depends where it's at. If it's pitching an actual script, they might be reading a synopsis of it for about 20-30 minutes.
Wow.
If it's at a treatment stage, they will be, there'll still be a sort of 20-30 minute pitch where it's absolutely rehearsed. And it goes into a lot of detail, sort of anticipating questions, but leaving a few questions so that the poor buyer isn't sat there thinking nothing to ask. But it is so slick. And I've had, as a producer, I've had writers pitching to me, and at first I felt almost embarrassed by it, because come on, let's just have a chat. You don't need to. And they're often writer performers; they're really performing it, and it's just me sort of on a Zoom feeling really slightly embarrassed at the amount of effort they're putting in.
Are we talking like PowerPoint? Props and things, or just
it's almost like bedtime story.
Right. Okay.
I was going to say, it sounds almost like a theatre production or something.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, which can be brilliant, but then when they've gone to that much effort, it's one of those situations where if in the first few minutes it's really not going to be something you're going to go for, you just feel the pain for them. They put so much into it, but that's the way they do it, and that's the way they like to do it, and that is industry standard. So it's kind of like, come on, you Brits, get over it. Stop being stop being silly.
What's the standard rejection? Is it a letter, or do you ask them in, or is it just a text?
It's usually it depends where it's got to. If it's a script that's been sent in, it'll be an email. And I've always spent far too long on my rejection emails, because I like to try and be constructive and helpful.
That says a lot about you.
Well, it's not selfless, because if you kind of give a lot of information about why something's not right and what you are looking for, then hopefully it means that next time you're going to get something that's a bit more on target. And also, again, it goes back to that thing of just never forgetting really how much effort and love goes into writing a script or developing an idea for something. And I think you've always got to try and tread carefully around that. If it has got further than that, then it would be a phone call.
Yeah.
Or even further than that, it might be a face-to-face meeting, depending on the relationship and geographical proximity and all that sort of stuff.
Get them drunk.
And if it's written on a shopping receipt, ignore.
Thanks for listening to the Failing Writers podcast. Oh, God. You're still listening, aren't you? You've not fallen asleep again like last week. Fair enough, I suppose. Here's the rest of the podcast.
So in terms of like we've had a few sort of absolutely must-nots for a pitch. What about a sort of absolutely this is something that you have to include in your pitch? Talking in sort of British style.
I would say letting your this sounds so wanky, I'm so sorry. Letting your passion for the idea show. Because if you're sort of pitching something in a way that almost feels like you don't really care that much about it, it's kind of, well, if you don't care, why should I? And also, if you don't care at this stage, how are you going to feel sort of in a year's time when you've done 13 rewrites? Come on. And I think that can be a little bit of a sort of British sort of sensibility of kind of downplaying things and not being, it's not cool to be enthusiastic. Yeah. And also, facing the inevitable rejection, you don't kind of want to seem too keen. But actually, the keenness is really key, and it's infectious as well.
Yeah.
So I would say that is the number one thing. What else? I think just having a really clear sense of what is at the heart of the script. So, what about the script is it that you are absolutely believing in? What is making you want to write this? What is it you kind of absolutely love about it? What is it that you find really funny about it? And what is it you're not sure about? Because I think it's often quite useful to have debates around, okay, so I considered this and I considered that. This is the decision I made. But it could go in this way. But being confident in the decision you've made, but being open to make it clear you're open to kind of having those kind of conversations around.
So it's good to sound, I was not unsure, but open, because it means that you're the kind of person that can.
And I guess to show that you've considered as well that we like with our thing. We were talking about when to pitch it in terms of when it was set, weren't we?
Yeah.
Do you mean so that would be an example of that, wouldn't it? That you would discuss. This is when we decided to set it, but we did consider this could work as well if it was whatever in that early 2000s, because then X, Y, and Z would be funny. But
so you kind of made a decision. You're backing your own decision, but you are talking about all the considerations around it. I think that is sort of really usure, because
we firmly believe this, unless that's the reason you're not commissioning it, in which case we could probably be flexible.
But I mean, for example, there's often discussion around certain writing styles or techniques like flashback and voiceover and things like that. So I think sometimes being open-minded about, we put this in for now, but actually we're open to discussing whether that should stay or not, because maybe it would work better without that. It's sort of not doubting yourself, but just allowing a bit of flexibility in the discussion, rather than coming and saying, nope, that's absolutely how we want it. If you don't like it like that, then we're going. And believe me, I have had those kind of conversations with writers, and it goes back to the whole thing about it's a collaborative industry, and you are going to have to make changes at every point along the way. When you get into production and suddenly you haven't got the perfect location, or the weather's not right, or there's always changes you're going to have to you're going to have to adapt to. So if you can't write from the start, show some flexibility in your thinking. And I don't mean come in and pitch it like, oh, we weren't sure whether to set it here or here. That's not what I mean at all. So I think just showing that you are able to take notes, but also able to back your own. Sometimes you don't want people to back down on that. You want them to, maybe what you're discussing is the fact that what their intention is hasn't quite translated. So if they're saying, no, we absolutely want it to be like this because of this, and then you can say, well, okay, I get that, but that's not quite apparent in the script yet. So maybe. And
then is it okay as the people pitching? Is it okay to burst into tears then, or do you do that outside, or that's probably different in the American and the UK, isn't it? I got you.
Yeah.
Hey Saskia, do you want to hear our idea?
Go
on. Because it'd be nice to just kind of to let you pick holes in it and and see if there is anything in it, and whether we should attempt to pursue it in any way.
Okay.
Would you'd be comfortable?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So hold on, wait. Before you pitch it, who am I? Am I a commissioner or am I a producer?
Good question. I think you're probably the producer.
Cool. Okay.
That feels like you're kind of more on our side. Somehow.
Yeah, because also if I'm the commissioner, then which channel? We've got all that to decide. Okay, I'm the producer.
You've got some notes there, John.
I made some notes especially for this.
Brilliant.
Do you want me to? I'll go and you can come in whenever you feel like you need to tell me to shut up. So to kick off, I thought it'd be quite good to address the fact that we are 3 middle-aged white men, and so like on the coolness scale, we're extremely low down.
Oh, low.
But
sorry, I wasn't expecting that.
But that is who we are. So we wanted to write something that kind of shamelessly embraces that in some way. So I was thinking maybe, I don't know whether do people sometimes start with the kind of the theme, what it's about, or do they usually just kick in with the premise? Because I thought it might be quite interesting to talk about what it's about. Because that's
its core reason for being.
Yes, theme. Because you were just talking about how important.
Why don't you pitch it like you'd pitch it?
Okay, just do it. Do it however it comes out.
Yeah.
All right. So here's what the series is about. It is
right. Well, we're just gonna jump into the podcast here for a second. We'll get back to Saskia very quickly, but I think this bit really should be redacted, shouldn't it?
Yeah. Get the black pen out, just because if we give it all away now, we've blown our lot. We've blown our load. Our powder is spent and wet. Whatever the phrases are.
We
should make some new ones up. We spun our top.
We should make some. Yeah.
We popped our bag.
Yeah. We've popped
our
tarts.
Our pants. Oh no, that's not right.
That's different. Different thing. We've tickled the final elephant.
Yes. This should all be left out of the show. No one should hear this. In fact, this should be deleted immediately.
Apart from anything else, people will probably steal the idea because it's so hot.
I think exactly. That's what will happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. Yeah. So I think we should just skip to
It'd be really annoying that, wouldn't it, if we kind of get through this and actually we end up getting something that isn't terrible at the end of it, and then like a year later there's like a whist night or something, or snap
Bridge
night.
night.
Bridge night. Yeah, something like
a Scandi sitcom called Bridge.
And the thing is with that, you can't help feeling that they would have done it the same but better as well. That's the thing, isn't it?
Almost certainly.
Oh, that is our idea, but that is a lot better.
That's actually good. That's actually good.
Jokes in and everything.
Yeah.
Well, let's just skip to the part where Saskia gives
the
us
bit of
a
feedback.
Glowing review.
Yeah. Well,
yeah?
The feedback.
All right.
So here's so we explained everything.
Can we edit
the
it
best we
to
could
make it sound like the feedback was a bit better than it was?
Probably not. No, I think we're stuck with.
It
wasn't that bad actually.
No, it wasn't.
Wasn't that bad? Because judge for yourself, listener. Here's how it went down.
But I think if we'd been having a sort of real conversation about it, I would probably say, look, there's something in there. I think, if you're interested in continuing the conversation, these would be the areas I would sort of get you to have a bit more to think about and, come back if you want. But I'm not sort of guaranteeing that we'd go for it, but I'm really happy to continue talking because there's something about it that's interesting. That's how that would go, which I don't say to everyone by any means, because it's much easier at this stage to say a no than a kind of encouraging no.
Yes.
Well, I think we'd take that as a massive positive,
wouldn't
we?
Yeah.
Thank you, Saskia.
But I am sending you off to do homework.
Oh, no, absolutely. Well, that's kind of the whole point of all of this is just like an out loud learning process. Really, we're trying to learn about it, and hopefully other people can learn a bit about the process as well. So all of the people that we've spoken to this series have hopefully given us some little nuggets of wisdom. Yes, I think we've learned some today.
No, I'd like to be a bit more, sure about that. We've definitely learned some today.
Definitely. I'm not. Do you know what? I'm not even sure about the expression "nuggets of wisdom." I don't think that's quite what I was trying to say. But I think there's a better expression than that, isn't it?
It's always really hard at the end of these interviews, though, isn't it? Where you're taking on feedback, because then your brain goes into thinking about the project mode.
Yeah.
And then you kind of forget that there's there's still someone there we're meant to be talking to.
So I can just go away. It's
Not
fine.
supposed to be typing. Yeah. But we really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Saskia.
Yes.
Absolute pleasure. It's been lovely talking to you.
Before we let you go, have you got anything exciting in the pipeline that you can actually talk about? This is my final question, you see. This is the question you can't answer.
There's loads I'd love to tell you about, but I don't think I can. Nothing I'm allowed to say right now.
I told you. It's not
You like asking me questions I can't answer, don't you?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Because you never know.
Just imagine now John, as we're saying goodbye, John's just going to be shouting like, who's the worst person you ever worked with?
I'll tell you that when we stop recording.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for hanging out. We
Thank
really
you so
appreciate
much,
you taking your very valuable time.
Yeah, thank
Absolute
you.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Well, if nothing else, she was a very nice lady.
She was, wasn't she? She was lovely.
Yes.
She was.
Did you not seem a bit too nice to be doing that job?
Well, there was,
I actually felt a bit sorry for her.
She
Like,
kept saying.
I can imagine it gets quite stressful for her. Like, quite.
I know, she kept saying, like, I didn't want to say. I knew in the first minute that this was shit, but I didn't want to say anything. I felt a bit sorry for them.
Lovely. What a lovely
I'm like,
person.
bless her, yeah.
That must
I think
make
I'd be a little bit like that.
It'd be a lot easier being a complete shit, wouldn't it, doing that
I
job?
think
just
you'd
where you
be
don't
better
care.
at that.
Where you go, no, don't like it.
Yeah,
Sling her
I
up.
think that'd be more your approach, Tom. I
Yeah.
don't think you'd have a problem with just saying, this is shit. Get out of my office.
Can I stop you there? No, I've not got anything to say. Can I just stop you there?
Please
I'll
stop.
stop you. But no, bless her.
Yeah.
She was very and I think possibly one of the most useful interviews that we've done in terms of actually learning something. I feel like I've learned something anyway.
Do you know what I thought was quite nice from it as well? Was the idea. I think when we're doing this, and I've never really pitched anything like this before. Obviously, I've pitched stuff in my professional life, like radio ads and stuff, so I know how to pitch, and in a pitch, like what to do to
It's
some
easy
extent.
that though, isn't it?
But the fact that she kind of said, well, there's it's almost like she said, there's guidelines, but there aren't rules. You kind of do it your own. You need to just do it your own way.
Yeah.
And that's quite liberating, isn't it? Actually, really.
Yeah.
That you're not thinking,
is.
I'm
As
doing
long
it
as
a
you're
bit wrong.
professional.
You meant to do this bit first.
Mm.
It's kind of actually, no, the best way to pitch your thing is the best way you feel to pitch your thing and show your enthusiasm for it.
Do you know, I bet you could find something on Twitter that tells you the absolute way that you have to do a pitch and you must not stray from this in any form.
From some really sarky American producer or something like, you do not do your pitch in the afternoon. And that's it. That's an absolute hard rule.
Yeah.
Never pitch straight after lunch. They won't be listening. Too busy digesting.
If you're not talking about your inciting incident in the 15th second of the pitch, then you might as well forget about it. But no, it's good that there aren't that sort of, hard and fast rules. I think that's... We just need to be ourselves, lads, don't we? We need to be, first and foremost, we need to be confident and heartfelt about what we're doing, and then just...
I do think the confidence thing has been missing a little bit from our pitches in the past.
I think the fact that pretty much every time a question is asked about our project, it's met by a long pause.
None of us passed the buck this time, though, did we?
No, that's true.
No,
that is true.
That's true, yeah.
We just left it to you, John.
Small steps. Small steps.
Oh, well, it's another step along,
it's
isn't
getting
it?
better all the time.
But as I was saying at the start, what we actually need to do is get, bouncing stuff around, get some energy into it, get some stuff that we can write and then delete and change and move and
collaborative writing is really.
It's not really it's just about getting on with it.
Yeah, getting on with things is really hard though, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah, no, you got a point.
Anyway, I wasn't here last week.
No, you weren't, Dave.
I was.
We weren't even meant to have an episode last week, but it just kind of organically happened.
Yeah, what happened there?
And whilst I was away, you snuck in, introduced a whole new bloody competition. For us to judge.
Yeah,
just giving money away left, right, and centre.
Yeah. So next week we're revealing the winner next week, aren't we? Because as this goes out, it's pencils down.
Please stop writing.
No more turn your papers over, and we'll be reading some of them out, getting in the mood for Halloween.
Yeah, and on top of that, we've got some more Halloween-ness as well, haven't we?
We have. We are going to...
You booked in a Halloween guest.
Yeah, we're going to talk to the writer...
Is it Freddy Krueger?
Count Dracula?
Michael Myers?
No. I could pretend to be Dracula if you want to... we could do it in character.
Would it be the one off Sesame Street?
Yes.
Oh,
isn't that the only one?
No.
Is that not the real one?
I used to have nightmares about him when I was a kid. I did. I had recurring nightmares about the Count from Sesame Street. Every night I would have a dream, and I would just be I'd just be at school or be at home or something, and then I'd suddenly get a feeling something was not quite right, and then the Count it would like poke his head round a door with his big pointy nose, and then I would be sick, and then I'd wake up.
Wow!
And was there sick in the bed when you woke up?
I wasn't actually sick. I was sick in the dream.
That's
I would
awful.
my reaction to seeing the Count would be to go, and then I'd wake up.
Dave. I feel like you shouldn't have
It is
actually
weird,
shared
isn't
that
it?
with us. That's like
Overshared.
I think
that's like proper
I
trauma.
know that was. I'm feeling it. Yeah. So yeah, no, not the Count, not Count Dracula from Sesame
Were you
Street.
okay with the other? Were
Please
you
avoid
okay
that
with the other Sesame Street characters?
I was. My brother was mortally afraid of. Remember the Swedish Chef?
I can imagine that. He seemed quite
Quite
violent.
Yeah,
with his knives and stuff.
didn't like him. So.
Well, maybe we should get in touch with the other John Rand and see if we can. You could probably add something to his Halloween. What was it? Nightmare on Sesame Street.
Nightmare on Sesame Street. Exactly.
Whoa.
When he was talking about that, it brought back
Yeah.
memories, but I didn't want to reveal it at that point, But
Wow.
You weren't ready.
So who is our Halloween guest, John?
So our Halloween guest is a writer called Sunyi Dean, who's a cross-genre writer, but who dips into the spookier side of writing. So we'll be talking to Sunyi in our Halloween special, and also revealing the winner of our Trick or Tweet Spooky Little Story competition.
Oh, that's going to be fun, isn't it?
I think it will be quite a lot of fun.
I think the name of that competition is the winner in many ways.
It's a good name, that, John.
Yeah, although
It's
it's
good.
quite hard not to say Twick or
Like,
Tweet.
like some Sylvester and Tweety Pie kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so, boys, we will end this week's episode here. But when we start next week's and we say what we've been writing, all going to say Poker
Night.
We'll probably say it will be so much in sync because we've been so active, bouncing stuff backwards and forwards and tweaking each other's bits and bobs. That sounded wrong, but you know what I mean? We'll all say it in unison. We'll probably go, Poker Night.
Still not there.
Yeah.
Still not there.
Yeah, but it's
By next week.
It'll be in harmony. No, we don't. That's
I reckon,
the thing.
I reckon we got like maybe 2 weeks of proper hard work on this.
Yeah.
And we know exactly what we need to do.
Yeah.
And we just need to nose to the grindstone.
I think the point is we don't need to be all saying Poker Night in the same way. We need to be saying it different ways.
Maybe.
That harmonise.
That's true. Yeah, very
That
true.
would be nice, wouldn't it? I feel a ditty coming on.
Absolutely. I can hear that. I can hear that.
Three-part harmonies.
Yeah. Lovely.
Right.
Well, it's been nice hanging out with all of you again.
Thanks for coming along.
Yeah. Let's call it a day, hey?
Yeah.
Let's go and have a little cry, first of all, and then
Let's go
crack
sit
on.
down. Cup of tea
Yeah.
and a therapeutic
And then
cry.
straight back into it.
Yeah.
Like gluttons for punishment.
Yeah.
Lovely to speak to you, chaps.
See you next week.
Take it easy. Bye. Hello.
Hello.
Where's everybody gone?